It's a pterodactyl.
But a pterodactyl doesn't fall into a Christmas-related category.
A pterodactyl!
Hey gang, and welcome to another episode of a podcast named Scooby-Doo Extra. Now, if you're not familiar with what the extra episodes entail, essentially this is my version of the added value content that you would normally get on your Blu-ray or your DVDs. Since Warner Brothers has not been doing the best job of kind of creating this content in-house, I figured since I was talking to writers and directors and various and sundry people who have worked on this show within this franchise, that I would just go ahead and give them the opportunity to come on and talk about episodes that they've worked on and do little commentaries. I'm a commentary freak, so it's one of my favorite parts of doing the podcast, and I love releasing these episodes, partly because they've got that set format where they have to operate within the confines of the length of an episode, but also because the insights and the conversations and the stuff that previous guests have kind of contributed have just been fabulous. And I've got a couple more lined up. Looking forward to getting those done. But this week is actually kind of a makeup week. As some of you may have already seen on Twitter, I've had some major technical difficulties with the most recent episode that I was going to release today, but because of that, I'm going to need another week or so just to get that sort of sorted out. And I figured, since I have this commentary, which I haven't released isolated yet, I would go ahead and do that sort of as a filler to make sure that there's content for March. And beginning of April, I'll probably have those technical things sorted out and a brand new interview with somebody who's worked within the franchise, somebody who's worked on an earlier iteration of the show, something that's new to the podcast. It's very exciting. It's a great interview. I'm sure you'll love it. And the commentary that I'm featuring today is the Scary Christmas commentary, which originally was part of the holiday special that I did with the other Scooby-Doo podcasters and some special guests. And the middle segment of that show, which I did with What's With You Scooby-Doo's Nick Robes and Be Cool Scooby-Doo story editor Jon Colton Barry, we did a commentary for Scary Christmas within our segment, and I've always said that I was going to isolate it and release it as its own thing, and that's exactly what I'm doing here. Essentially, Christmas in March. If you've got a problem with it, get over it. Regardless, it works really nicely on its own, and I hope that if you haven't listened to it, that you will take the opportunity to listen to it, and if you have listened to it, that you might go back and refresh, because it's fun, and it'll basically tide you over until first week or so of April, when that other great interview comes out. So I'm not going to waste any more of your time. I'm just going to get into the commentary segment, jump right into it, and I will come back for my usual outro on the other side. So, see you then.
Hang on!
All right, so give us the countdown.
All right, everybody's got their episodes ready?
Ready to go when you are, sir.
Okay, gonna count down from 3, and when I say play, everybody hit play.
So it's 3, 2, 1, go.
3, 2, 1, go. Yeah. Don't do the bit where it's go on 1, or go on go.
Yeah, well, that's the bit I was doing. I did the bit.
I know you, Nick. All right, 3, 2, 1, play. And here we are.
Yeah. So this was the third or fourth attempt. These cold opens were the hardest part of the entire show. We rewrote every episode. We went through 5 or 6 completely different ones because they were just so hard to come in and try to come up with a funny little bit and a funny little sketch.
Who came
the first
up?
One was about
John. Who came up with like all this math?
I did. This is I
researched
I wrote
it?
all this. Yeah, I pretty much the numbers he says are accurate.
I love that. He's fireproof.
Good to know. Well, okay,
or they're not, but prove me wrong. I mean,
try.
Yeah. I'm going to say they're accurate.
Hey, here's one thing that I was thinking of recently. The pacing of Be Cool Scooby-Doo is something that we've never seen in a Scooby-Doo franchise ever. Like, it is unbelievably, I mean, what feels to me very modern, that the idea of the kids saying the math for what feels like 45 seconds, and then just like, beat, he's fireproof. Like, that pacing to me typifies a lot of what I feel about Be Cool Scooby-Doo. It's like there's a push and pull to it that I've never seen in this franchise before.
It has amazing comic timing.
It was very, very, very difficult to get there. The actors, have been doing these, Frank Welker in particular, forever. He's been doing Fred. He owns that character. They're very proprietors of these characters. They feel they know them. And we changed them a lot. Mike I talked about Fred is Gene Wilder from Young Frankenstein. That's who I'm writing when I'm writing Fred. And through the alchemy of the animation and Frank's voice, it comes out as this particular Fred here. But my dialogue is meant to be read very quickly. It's supposed to be very fast. And the actors tend to want to, take their time and have fun with it. And so every time was like faster. And it felt unnatural to them. But eventually they got up to speed. But yeah, the pacing and the speed at which they're talking ends up. I don't know if it sounds like they're talking fast to you guys.
Oh yeah, it moves at a pretty good clip. In a good way.
Right, but that's sort of it's what it needs to be for it really to work.
Well, for this humor.
Yeah, for this humor.
John,
I would also say. Sorry.
I just wanted to ask John. One of the things I find the most interesting about this episode is everyone is kind of working at cross purposes, and I think it really works narratively, and it's one of my favorite things about this show when all of the characters kind of have their own agendas. I was wondering why that approach was developed.
Well, again, just because we were trying to do a comedic ensemble, so all the characters. I'm going to use the word math a lot because it very much is to me. It's algebra. The characters are built to have conflicts and contrasts and complements with one another. So Fred's a control freak. If the other characters are being funny, it means they're out of control, which means Fred is funny, trying to get them back into control. Daphne is very open-minded, and she's more Mulder, and Velma is more Scully, and she's more of the skeptic, and and so they're built in ways that to create comedy and conflict at all times.
Your background, I'm sorry, your Wikipedia page is scant, so I'm inferring from your IMDb page. You come from Second City, right? Sketch writing?
No, but I did do a lot of sketch writing, a lot of stage comedy writing, and I did do some work with Second City, but I wasn't really in Second City.
The thing that really reads to me is that it is very focused in the way that like a sketch needs to be. It's like we have information that we need to get across so that we can make sure that we can now play with it. And that fast clip, that pacing that I'm talking about, I mean, I don't know if everybody else is at the orphanage right now, but it's one of my favorite things of all time in this episode.
It's so awful. It's just so sad. I didn't even know they were going to do with him pushing his nose against. It was much more. It was more than I even thought. But I was like, oh, I'm so glad they made it even worse than I imagined.
Well, can I also that, like, it's so funny that gag feels so modern to me because, like, it feels like a modern cartoon gag of, like, but old school Scooby-Doo, if they had known that they could do that, they would have been creaming in their pants because so much of old Scooby-Doo is like, Scooby-Doo thinks that his tail is a worm. Oh, how long is that going to go on for? 10 seconds? Let's see if we can push it for a minute.
Right.
Like, just being able to stop and look at this kid would have been a blessing to old school Scooby-Doo.
Well, yeah, again, that was the part of the thinking was to go back to the original Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And make the show, if they were going to make that show today, what would that show be? We went back to that same paradigm. Those 5 characters in the van drive around solving mysteries. How would we do that today? You know, kind of using our sensibility. And my particular sensibility is very pre-1980s comedy, very sketch comedy. Marx Brothers, Monty Python, early Woody Allen, very early Mel Brooks.
A little bit of SCTV.
Yeah. But there is a lot of sketch in there, and a lot of those people like Woody Allen and Mel Brooks and Monty Python. They're particularly their early films. Each scene is almost a sketch. They build their movies with almost self-contained sketches, you know, and they got better and better at blending. Holy Grail is really sketches, and there's almost barely any linking. By Life of Brian, it's a much more fluid narrative film, even though there's still sketch-like scenes, you know. And you'll find the same with early Woody Allen and Mel Brooks, who wrote your shows. They wrote sketch. All those people come from a sketch place. And that thinking always goes into usually everything I write, that I try to have each scene have a beginning, a middle, and end, and sort of a comedic point of view as a sketch. So there is that there.
And almost A-B stories for each scene. I mean, each scene almost has its own A-B of the sketch, where it's like, oh, this is happening primarily, but also this is the secondary story that's happening. I mean, I don't know if everybody else is seeing her spray him right now with Silly String, but still, like, her birthday is this B story.
There's a lot to service. Yeah, it was tough getting everything in there, you know, but again, that's why it had to be read fast, was there's a lot to accomplish. But that's what sort of made it fun and made it that this particular gang is that they all have their own agendas, but you can sort of feel their love and their friendship and their,
it serves a larger purpose.
Yes, it does serve a larger purpose.
I think this episode is particularly good for exemplifying what you said about it being math, because there's so much going on and so much needs to be accomplished. And this is the 3rd time I'm seeing this episode tonight, and it's interesting how every time I see it, I see the layers, and I can see how you're basically putting everything in and making sure that everything is introduced at a certain time, so that, you know, it builds to something that, you know, you get the payoff in the end. And it's something that you guys did all the time on this show, and it's these really, really crazy episodes where you're really pushing sort of the boundaries of what the show could do, where that's most notable. But I just, like, hats off to you guys for doing that, because it really works.
Oh, well, thanks. Well, this one also had that particular problem of I had to have that ending where it, you know, like I had to place in all the elements so at the end they turn into Santa in a sled.
Yeah, like there's no way
you know what I mean?
that you're watching Scooby and Shaggy on this treadmill. There's no way you could know how that's going to pay off later. It's just this weird...
Well, that's the thing. Right. Don't telegraph it somehow, but also have it, like, be organic so that it's not ham-fisted.
That was the hard part of this, was bringing all... But you know what? Honestly, I think the mystery suffered a little bit for all the surfacing we had to do for the characters. It is a fairly complicated mystery. There's a lot of, like, and then I did this, and he had to do this, and it's sort of like, well, where did this come from? Like, I don't think it's really our best mystery and our best suspects. I think.
But every episode has to have a mystery, but that doesn't mean that every episode's focus has to be the mystery.
No, and I preferred. I didn't really think people cared that much about the mysteries per se.
You got a pterodactyl there. Like, what else do you need?
Right.
Well, I mean, but here's the other thing. I mean, from an artistic standpoint, like, if you're going to be writing this, there is going to be an element, if you are a conscientious person, which you are, there's going to be an element where you want everything to be perfect. You want the mystery to be perfect. You want the characters to be perfect. The gags to be perfect. You want it all to balance out. So I get that. I get that idea. Do you think there's an episode where you got it all right? Not alt-right. I know that a lot of people are going to be thinking that in this nation right now, but all right.
You know what? I think some Fred time got pretty close. I think that one was the first episode of season 2. Did a pretty good job of having good suspects, an interesting mystery. Like you weren't really sure what's going on. Some surprises, funny moments. I think the latter part, the last 4 or 5 episodes of season 1 and the first half of season 2 was our best work. Sort of where we were getting as close as we could to doing the show as best as we could.
By the way, that was my favorite gag of this entire episode, the bicycle thing.
I also wanted to just jump in and say, I love how joyously exuberant Shaggy and Scooby are in this episode. Like, they're so happy through the whole thing.
Well, also them doing the sack race at the beginning, like completely independent of the rest of the gang. It's great. It's great background business.
A lot of people felt that Daphne was being very whiny about her birthday in this one, and it's.
Those are people who don't have birthdays on December 24th.
Yeah, I thought it was a fairly, because I know some people who actually have that problem. Some stuff was cut that was very, very silly, that lightened up Daphne. She didn't seem quite as whiny. But still, I think it's okay if Daphne's thing isn't always goofy, if it's, a little bit more,
But you could also make the argument that Velma is being, like, super naggy, too, because Fred's just trying to find a Christmas mystery, and Velma's, like, really putting him down through the whole episode.
And by that account, you could say Fred's very whiny.
So I think to pick on one character is just unfair.
Sure.
Sorry, I just heard her say,
Worst birthday ever!
Oh, Gray.
That's one of those moments where you're like, why
series.
are they still hanging on that scene? And then you hear Gray give that delivery, and it's like perfect.
Gray is just so brilliant, and she is so much like this Daphne. It was a piece of cake for her. She instantly got what we were doing with this. And Kate was perfect too. We actually made Velma more like Kate than we originally intended, because she has such a natural, vulnerable sort of, thing about
vibe.
her. Yeah, that it sort of took on Velma.
Yeah.
But yeah,
to plug my buddy's podcast, Gray was just on Comedy on Vinyl, and I think she is one of the most charismatic people I have ever heard on that podcast.
She's so great. I moderated a panel for her at a convention once, and yeah, she's a force of nature.
She's doing stand up now. I keep meaning to go see her. Have you seen on Facebook? She's been posting it. She's been doing stand up.
She's going to be at the Comedy Store in January, I believe.
I'm still staggered by the idea that Frank Welker has a comedy album.
Does he?
What? Are you talking about Almost Sold Out? You haven't heard it?
No, you mentioned that the last time we talked on the show, and we were like,
so
what?
Good. So good. He literally does 2 sides of impressions, and it's amazing the whole time.
I think we should also point out, I mean, we're talking so much about the writing, because obviously John, but not only is the writing and the story busy, but just look at this episode. Like, there's so much design in this episode. I mean, the characters have new models.
Yeah, it's a beautiful episode.
Yeah, it's the town, usually you've got your stuff that, every new thing that gets introduced, whatever, but the characters are always on model, and here, they got the winter gear. Billy would probably be very happy right now.
Can I also ask a question?
No.
Great. All right, let's move on.
No, please. Please.
So the 15 minutes, was that supposed to be 15 minutes into the episode, or 15 minutes after he previously said, I'm going to need you at 15 minutes?
Well, it's 15 minutes and 35 seconds into the episode, Nick, so you tell me.
Into the episode, it happens 15 minutes, but it doesn't happen 15 minutes after he says, I'll need it in 15 minutes.
You know what? I don't know. It was probably just a joke and not really actually planning it out that he'd have another epiphany exactly at that time.
Acceptable.
But now I'm kicking myself for not paying attention to that, because normally that is the type of stuff I'm anal about.
Can I ask you to retract that and just say that you wanted it to happen at 15 minutes into the episode?
I retract that. I wanted it to happen at 15 minutes into the episode, but they stopped me.
Where did George come from, John? It's such an out of left field thing.
Where did George?
Yeah, isn't George the guy that shines the light on Fred?
Oh, you mean, the epiphany guy? It was just a really silly idea that Fred keeps having these epiphanies, and that he's hired this guy to enhance his epiphanies. It's just an absurdist sort of idea. I don't know where any of this stuff comes from.
How much do you think Fred is paying him? Wait, nope, hold on. Mike, first. How much do you think Fred is paying him?
It was a single bill, so I'm going to say a $5.
John, how much is Fred paying him?
I think Fred solved the mystery for him. And so George owes him. So George
is the one who brought him into this.
No, I think Fred once helped George out on a mystery. And as payment, George regrets it. He regrets agreeing to this. But Fred's like, look, I'm going to have some epiphanies coming up, and I could use some help. And he's like, all right, I've lit some epiphanies before. I have some experience in this, so yeah, but he didn't expect so many epiphanies, So I think it was an obligation on George's part.
The story that John is spinning, I smell a direct-to-video movie here.
The origin
it's better than a lot of them.
Yeah, but this whole thing, trying to make it come together, and then
yep. It's funny. I mean, like when the presents go into the bags, you're like, wait a minute.
Right.
I do like how satisfyingly, almost sickeningly Christmas this all ends up in the end.
Well, it's subversively saccharine, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, look at that. You're popping. It's ridiculous.
Well, and he's got the beard. Scooby's got the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in that scene, one scene alone, you can basically see kind of all the setup for the last 18 minutes kind of paying off.
Yeah.
I did want to ask, we're coming up to the finale where they all sing Happy Birthday to Daphne, and they sing Happy Birthday Daphne to Hark the Herald Angels Sing, which is how the Charlie Brown Christmas special ended.
At the time. Wait,
is
what?
That, yeah, at the end of the Charlie Brown Christmas special, they all sing Hark the Herald Angels Sing around the Christmas tree. Was that intentional, John?
It was not intentional. I just had to use a public domain Christmas song. So I chose one that the lyrics of Happy Birthday Daphne, Happy Birthday would work the best with.
With the scan.
Yeah, so it was basically trying to save money and use one that scanned the best with the lyric. Or no, yes, I purposefully was homaging Charlie Brown.
This is our entire project now.
I'm answering everything wrong.
You are really screwing up absolutely everything.
I will make myself look much more clever in my next response, I promise.
That's such a modern kid too.
And this kid's name is this kid's name is Braden. And I tried in every episode where there's a kid to have him named Braden. In the Coward episode, How to Train Your Coward, the duck at the beginning. I don't know if you saw that one. He's like
Coward the duck.
No. Well, no, How to Train Your Coward. There's a duck, a guy in a duck outfit, a singing duck.
The opening scene,
whatever it is. Yeah, the opening scene. But he's like, Maurice, I'm in the only house in America without a kid named Braden in it. It's a weird running joke just for me and my wife. Because when we named our child, Braden, Aiden, Jaden, those were the names that were the most popular, and it's just like there's a million Bradens now.
Yeah, Nick, we'll hook you up later.
All right, good. We won't let the powers that be know.
Good thing we're not recording this.
Right?
All right, so we're coming up to the conclusion of the episode. John, any closing comments?
I was very pleased with this. I thought it was a nice, subversive little Scooby-Doo episode, and fulfilled its sort of anti-Christmas special, vibe I was trying to go for, yet still felt Christmassy and was the correct tone for this particular series. I was good with this one.
Nick, your thoughts?
Anti-Christmas special. Well, I mean, I feel like I talked about the micro pacing of it, joke-wise, but also the macro pacing of it. Like, that sort of anti-Christmas special idea, just it all getting summed up with Fred at the beginning of Act 3, right? Being like, my stubborn search for a Christmas mystery ruined Christmas for this town. Wait! Hold on, I can solve everything. Like, it was that it wore its heart on its sleeve, but it wasn't it wasn't overly saccharine. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I think it was well balanced.
I think that's ultimately sort of the charm of Be Cool Scooby-Doo, is that it does have the gags. It's a very gag-heavy show. Some of them are very sophisticated in the timing and the execution, but it was a show. It's a really sentimental show. It wears its heart on its sleeve, like you said, and it honors the original series. And I think that combination of stuff is why I keep saying to you guys, like, time is going to be kind to this thing.
Oh, thanks. I pretty much agree. I think.
I know, I'm preaching to the choir, so.
No, it's a show about five friends, and I think that staying away from the romantic relationship stuff that Mr. Incorporated did was very useful, just in terms of creating believable, dimensional human beings who are spending a lot of time together, and they behave the way friends really do. They bitch at each other sometimes, but we know that they have each other's back, and so there's a lot of very honest, true, emotional sort of stuff in it. So it does wear its heart on its sleeve, but it's also a very irreverent, sort of silly comedy.
There's also, well, it's funny that you mentioned it's an irreverent, silly comedy, because so if you take the original series, 1960s, they want to make, this idea of these teenagers that solve mysteries. Great. There's not a lot of stakes to that in the 60s. There's not, like, it hasn't been done 175 times before. So now, once you get to Mystery Incorporated, the idea of trying to take that and make it relevant to a larger audience, take it seriously, the most obvious way to do that is to take these relationships seriously, to make it more adult, to make everything to up the ante when it comes to interpersonal relationships, death, all these adult themes. What you did is take it in the complete opposite direction. How do we make this relevant to a modern audience? We're going to make it, we're actually going to make an adult series in the least obvious way possible. We're going to take everything and we're going to actually make smart, subversive gags. We're going to make it when you say go left, we're going to go right. And I think that was a great call. And that's why I think that it's going to be viewed favorably in the future to Parrot Mike.
Well, thank you. If anyone in the future is able to see it, it would be very, very heartening if is looked back on as the little Scooby-Doo show that could have, that people didn't pay much attention to, but hey, go back and give it a shot on DVD because you really missed out on a cute little, my bar has lowered in terms of what I had hoped for with the show. I'm not really aiming for an Emmy at this point. But two more fans who really like it, that's a win for me. I am with that, I will, I'm thrilled with every new person who will write me and say, I watched this with my kids and we both sat there and we laughed and we love the show. Thank you. Like
I think that's honestly. I said I watched this episode 3 times this evening, twice in preparation and once while we were watching it just now. I laughed every time. It wasn't like I knew the joke was coming, so it wasn't funny. Every time the silly string gets sprayed, or Shaggy and Scooby,
that goddamn orphan.
The orphan. I know you just can't. I saw you laughing on the webcam. You just couldn't stop.
And I think that orphan is such a good gag. That's a storyboard artist bit, right?
Yeah, I mean it was in the script, but the milking of it and Jake's music, the sad, like the patheticness of the whole thing. This poor child wants to be adopted, and he thinks these people have come to, and it's like, no, they're just, it's just so sad. It's awful. Isn't it called Big Sad-Eyed Orphanage?
Big Sad-Eyed Orphanage.
Is that what?
That's what it was called. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Big Sad-Eyed Orphanage. It's just so awful.
I've seen a lot of animated Christmas specials. Some of them have been great. Most of them haven't.
You're talking about the Will Vinton claymation.
And have you guys seen? I'm sorry to interrupt. Have you guys seen the little drummer boy claymation one? The
years ago.
That's Rankin Bass.
Yeah. I in preparation for the finishing third one, my partner Piero and I, we watched a whole bunch of them, and we watched that one, and our jaws were on the floor at the, like, it was so dark and so not kid friendly, like the father is killed and the bad guys burst in and the mother turns and looks and has almost these like they're gonna like sexually abuse her, like it was really like, oh my God! It was dark and terrifying, and I can't believe that's what we were watching when we were kids.
Kids used to be able to handle
a lot of those
way
are
more.
Weird, yeah.
I mean, even like a Year Without a Santa Claus, and Rudolph
the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That one was terrible. Santa, they were shunning, like they were mad. Don't let him come out with his red nose. Like Santa was being a complete prick to this poor little reindeer who was a deformity, and they're shaming him, and only because he can help. Finally, do they love him? Not because of who he is, only because he has utility. Like, what kind of lesson is that? It's awful. Unless you're useful, if you're different, you should stay hidden away.
Yeah. I feel like that was a Year Without a Santa Claus as well. Like the town that like isn't going to have Christmas because Heat Miser is like making it hot, and like Snow Miser isn't going to compromise with them. I mean, it was all like these weird political messages that weren't they were apolitical for the time. I mean, it's bonkers.
Right. Yeah. It was just weird stuff. So I'm so sorry, Mike. I was interrupting you.
Oh, no, it's fine.
And then I continued the interruption.
You are guests in my home here. I was just going to say that, I've seen a lot of animated specials. Some of them are good. Most of them aren't. And when Be Cool Scooby-Doo was playing and I was watching it and I knew there was a Christmas episode coming up, I was just kind of crossing my fingers that this was going to be a drop the ball sort of moment. And Scary Christmas, when that pterodactyl showed up, I was like, I'm in. I'm all in. And it didn't disappoint. You guys have added to the pantheon of subversive classic Christmas specials.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I'm glad that we delivered.
I try not to just continually stroke your ego while you're here, John, but sometimes it's hard.
No, please be my. I'm totally fine with it.
That's why Nick's here.
It's funny you
Nick
should bring that. Yeah, it's funny you should bring that up. Why the hell did the guy give Daphne a magnifying glass? Also, why is it an archaeological dig if they are finding dinosaur remnants? Shouldn't that be a paleontological gig?
Yes, it should be, but it started off as an archaeological dig.
And then
until
they found
dinosaur eggs and brought in a paleontologist.
Okay, cards on the table. My girlfriend was the one who said that, and I gave the exact same answer that you gave.
That's because you're a genius.
What can I say?
There you go, Nick. You can retire on that one.
Fantastic. Yep. I'm going to make t-shirts that say, that's because you're a genius, Jon Colton Barry.
That's because you're a genius. There you go. Yeah, with the bells.
Thanks so much for coming on the show, man.
Of course. Hey, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for continuing to shine a little light on Be Cool. It is appreciated.
All right, so with that, we'll bring this segment to a close. That was our discussion / audio commentary for Scary Christmas. I just want to once again thank my guests for this segment, my Ghosts of Christmas Present, Nick Robes from What's With You, Scooby-Doo.
This has been a blast. Thank you so much for having me, sir. And,
of course, the incomparable Jon Colton Barry.
I am incomparable. Thank you so much, guys.
So stick with us for segment 3, which will be coming shortly. And these two guys will play you out.
All right, hit me.
Merry Christmas, wherever you roam.
Hit me with some sleigh bells. A podcast named Scooby-Doo. I am Jon Colton. Who? Merry Christmas, everybody. Is this where we sing Merry Christmas to everyone, or just closing out?
Hey, welcome back. You know, I was really unsure whether I should keep all that sort of extra Christmas stuff at the end, but it was so much fun at the time, and it brought back a lot of memories, and it was really fun listening to it again, and I thought, what the heck, leave it in. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was as fun and informative for you as it was for me. Like I said, I'm a commentary lover. And as much as I love hearing the single-person commentaries that I normally do, like with Tom and John previously, having this dynamic with the three of us, I really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to potentially doing more multi-person kind of episode discussions during the runtime of an episode. So I hope you guys are game for that, because I'm certainly putting that on the to-do list for the future. And this episode of APNSD Extra is already running what I consider a little long, so I'm just going to cut it right there. If you have any thoughts and feelings about what you've just heard, or you just want to say, hey, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just search Scooby-Doo Cast or a podcast named Scooby-Doo. I'll come up on the social medias. There's also the WordPress blog, wordpress.com/ScoobyDooCast, I think is the address. You can email me at scoobypodcast@gmail.com. And if you see me on the street, wave hello. Say howdy. But that's highly unlikely, and that joke didn't land as well as I hoped it would. So with that, thank you guys so much for joining me for this episode. Look forward to another great, amazing, fabulous interview with a Scooby-Doo writer. I'll let you know it's a writer. I won't tell you who it is, but it is a writer. Someone who worked on the third iteration of Scooby-Doo, as well as the Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo show. So there's some Scrappy-Doo conversation not to be missed. I'm telling you. Couldn't do this without you guys. Thanks so much for the support. Take care, and we will see you very soon on a podcast named Scooby-Doo.